Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time for the weekly Mod Collection Demo Shop update, and man, did they have some interesting ones this time. So, if you go all the way back to the very beginning of the Gibson mod collection, they did a finish called Cosmic Stew. We are seeing it return for the first time. Offered on not one, not two, but 3 new guitars. Alright, so let's check this first one out. It's a Les Paul Studio this time. So it's a really cool galactic finish. It must take quite some time to do, but this time we have the inclusion of a planet on here. It's either that or maybe they're going for a blood moon or something, but at first I thought it was like a giant poker chip. It's like, what's that doing there? No, that's not what it is. So you got that whole spacey theme. You get a little bit of yellow in these areas, some pinkish red and some blue. I'm betting this would look really sweet in person. Because what's great is it's a full-on refinish, including on the back. It looks like they even spray over the back plates. The rear of the headstock doesn't look like too much from this angle, but this angle it comes to life seriously. So that makes me think, what does this guitar actually look like in person? I'm betting it's 1,000 times cooler than the photos even make it seem. We even have the matching headstock here. The other one done up as an SG. You'll also notice these have all blacked out hardware, and it looks like our pickups don't have any pole pieces exposed. We've got another planet shaped thing on this one, again with the full on refinish. I really like how they did the straight up blue logo on this one. It pops more than the back of our headstock here. And the last one of the series was probably my favorite, the 335 Studio. Now, as far as the designs go, it's probably my least favorite, but if I had to choose between a Les Paul Studio, an SG Tribute, and a 335 Studio, I'd probably go with this one because it's a slightly more rare guitar. Here's what this thing looks like stock. I have a review of the 339 version of this one. They were kind of quirky guitars to begin with, so giving one of those this finish with the trapeze tailpiece, they would have had to have added the neck pickup on this one. It just makes it pretty interesting. So even though the front wasn't as cool on this one, the back looks like it would be explosive in person. I mean, look at all those colors you got here. So definitely cool to see the return of this finish, but at the same time, it makes me kind of sad that whoever bought the original Cosmic Stew ones probably thought it was a one-off, never going to be replicated. But here's the thing, these were kind of lower end models. Last time it was an SG standard, so these models are lesser within Gibson's lineup as far as pricing goes. Still great guitars, but now let's talk the prices on these things. Brace yourselves, they were expensive. So the Studio was $3,000. That's an expensive Studio. Put in a frame of reference here, a brand new one is $1,600. So that's almost double the price just for a unique finish. The SG Tribute was $2,800, up from $1,200. Then the 335 Studio was $3,300, up from, well, you have to take it from the used market. Generally, you're looking between like $1,300 to $2,200 on these things. Sometimes they can fetch a little bit more. So this was technically the best deal out of all of them because it's a little bit more of a rare model. I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised these things sold instantaneously, but hey, it is a really cool finish. So maybe we'll see some more of these show up in the mod collection. Next up, what is up with this thing? Rose Metallic Forest Les Paul bass. But the big kicker on this one is it has a tremolo. Why does the bassist need a tremolo? Now, I'm sure there's like a famous bass guy out there that uses a trem, but generally speaking, most bass guitars don't have that. So that is just interesting because they would have had to have custom made that as a 4-string bass plate on that one. They had to cover over the original stop bar tailpiece holes right here. So maybe you can convert it back if you don't want it like that. But then at the same time, you get this cool finish with like pink binding, Thunderbird style pickups, HP style knobs, and it was a full-on refinish as well. So at $3,000, I hope that made somebody happy. That was certainly one of the more strange ones this week. But speaking of strange, I remember a couple of episodes back when we were talking about these double necks, I said, I don't think I've ever seen a pickguardless EDS 1275. And I was actually incorrect in that. There is like an Ultima Series 1275 where they get a flame maple top, so they decide not to do it. And hey, lo and behold, one of these things actually showed up in the mod collection. I kind of thought this thing was going to sell fast, especially because the one in the demo shop last week went really quick. But surprisingly, no, it's still here. Now, why do I think it has sat for so long despite being so unique and interesting? Well, it's a double neck. There's only so many buyers for those, but it's a satin finish. It's like, why? Come on, mod collection guys. That's a guitar that deserves a little bit extra, even if you have to tack on another $500 to get the nice finish. I'm kind of baffled why they just went for the satin on that, especially on a flame top. But that appears to be a 2-piece top. Man, a lot of maple was used for that. But now for the big moment of truth, what does the back look like on one of these? surprisingly not that routed up. I thought we'd have more. You just have a couple of access control panels right there and like a regular SG style one here. And compare it to a regular EDS 1275 that just eats up the entire guitar with a pickguard. I wouldn't say that's too bad. But yeah, at the time of recording, still available for $84. Generally, when you see this style on the used market, they're between like $9.5 to $12. So it might seem expensive, but in the long run, it's actually not that bad of a price. Next up, we've got a 70s Explorer in Sparkle Orange. Not too much to say about this one. It's just been refinished in a orange color. You get the orange knobs right here, still the uncovered pickups, matching headstock as we've seen many times. And hey, at least it's a full-on refinish. Next up, Thunderbird in Camden Grape Satin. This one's a little bit too hard to appreciate in photos. The back kind of starts to show you off that grape finish, but it's the headstock I really like here because you can actually still see the original Bellum blue color right under the Gibson logo. It kind of has a cool, almost 3D-like effect, you know, like the blue and red around it, but it looks like they forgot to mask off the eye in Gibson. We had another one of these 70s Flying V's this week, but we learned last time that somebody got a cool government case for about the same price if I remember correctly, so I wanted to make sure that there wasn't another government case on this one, and Gibson, that's dirty. A gig bag at that price? Come on. That's just not fair. Limited edition, really rare case 1 week, gig bag the next. Next up, we have a Japanese-influenced Les Paul custom called Golden Kumiko. It sold relatively quickly at $5,500. Let's see what's special. Well, they drew lines on it. Okay, so what on earth is Kumiko? Well, according to Wikipedia, it is the Japanese technique of assembling wooden pieces without the use of nails. Okay, so you can kind of see the design that they were going for here. Now, this would be really cool if they had like multiple colors of woods making up the top to do that, but this one, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting golden finish. It's got some stripes, but it kind of reminds me of like the Designer Series Explorers and Flying V's. A limited market for sure, but somebody who's into this art style might appreciate it more than I did. It does have an interesting black neck with a top matching back. All right, guys, Pretty in Pink. Awesome name and just awesome results in general. I love this thing. It's not like too obnoxiously hot pink. It's just the right shade. It's got a little bit of purple into it. I love the blacked out theme. You get the blacked out headstock. And then look at that. We've got a beautiful stinger with matching black backplate. Kind of reminds me of like a flamingo or something. So despite being an SG tribute, that was definitely cool. And hey, this one got an upgraded hardshell case. Next up, a 335 in Dirty Green. Interestingly enough, we have different pickup covers on this one, but they say they're still Dirty Fingers pickups. Generally, those things don't get covers, or they at least expose the pole pieces, but kind of a cool green color. Now, generally, I like green guitars, but this one didn't speak too much to me. But if you want like a ivy green 335, is perfect at $3,600. Now we've got Television Lemon. All right, looks like one of those attempted relic jobs on one of the original collection juniors. Murphy Lab in Training. Here's another one of those Flying V's. It got a stinger, and oh, that's another one of the numbered ones. I'm curious if that got returned to them or if it's just finally surfacing to the market. We've seen so many like this show up, but not part of that numbered series, so that's the last one, 6 of 6. And from this photo angle, that doesn't even look black. It almost looks like a very dark purple. And according to our description, that is correct. Dark purple plastics as well. All right, that was one of those ones you probably would have missed that it was even purple had you not taken a closer look at it. I thought for sure that was just black. Next up, a Mahogany Explorer, one of the custom shop ones. It seems like they're starting to dwindle down the production of these. They're brand new, they're $5,000, but now they're pushing the Carinas for twice the price. So if you want a custom shop Explorer, this is a good way to go on a relative budget. My favorite thing about these Explorers are the Kluson style tuners. Harkening back to the vintage era might look strange to some, but once you've seen it on a Carina one, you don't want anything other. But that was offered at a $400 discount. Next up, we had an interesting Firebird that I was kind of tempted by. It was called Black Cherry Cola for $2,400. And it just seems to be like a dark purplish brown. I really like the custom pickguard that they had going on here. It complemented the finish really well. The chrome accents work, but sadly, I just don't like that style of Firebird. But I applaud them for the full-on refinish. Another one within the Firebird base family. Yeah, they removed the pickguard, made it look pretty strange. Added a pickup ring around the bottom one because of it. Let the other one be. I feel like this is one of those models where you kind of need the pickguard. And then lastly, we had Graphite Black Les Paul Special. Maybe this one would look better in person. Not really sure. I think this photo gives you the best of what its appearance might be like in person. Kind of like a very dull metal flake or something. But that's going to do it for the mod collection this week. Let's check out the demo shop over in the Netherlands. All right, so we had 2 weeks of these guys just not updating. And then this week they did. They had like 20 plus some guitars for us. And if I'm being honest here, there's nothing I really wanted to talk about, but I do want to commend the European demo shop because of something I've been talking about in these episodes forever. Stock photography. I've always not been a big fan of it. You generally have a solid color in the back. It makes the products look good. However, it doesn't like highlight the defects of the instruments. Like this is great just for a couple of beauty shots, but wood grain and flame figuring does not do well with bright studio lights. For example, look at this one, Smokehouse Burst Les Paul Studio. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a particularly attractive example. I mean, it's got some wood grainage right here, but pretty plain and boring. But now, look at this photo. Wow, that whole finish just comes to life and looks fantastic. You can tell it's got a little bit of figuring within it, mainly just the wood grainage. But I love what the demo shop does here. It shows all the blemishes and defects. They're nice candid shots is the best way to say it. It just lets the guitar shine in like the light that you would probably regularly see it in your house at. It's not the most flattering way to show a guitar, but it's great. And I love the fact that the European demo shop does these less professional shoots. Now, generally, they deal with more beat up, damaged guitars than the US shop, so maybe there's a reason they take the time to do that here. But I would love to see the US demo shop to do some of this as well, because I think it could convert more buyers on stuff that sits around as well. I mean, this is one of those expensive $10,000 Explorers. I mean, sure, it's got a pretty sizable discount for that market at $8,500, but looking at it, it just doesn't really do much for me in these bright photos. However, if we get to their candid shots, whoa, it just completely changes the way it looks without all the bright lights on it. It appears more attractive, in my opinion. And then I really like all the unique photo angles that they can show here. Like, I love all these lines going around the side. Kind of reminds me of like zebra wood or something. And they just show it to you from all these different angles. So kind of a cool Carina Explorer there. This 50s tribute had a funny hidden on it. So I was just going through these photos. It's like, okay, nothing too special. Guys, you gotta remember, every single week, I go through every single listing. I look through all the photos to see if there's anything worthy of talking about so we don't ever miss anything. And here's one of those things you probably would have missed. This guitar is angry. The pickup ring's like bending in slightly or bending up, I can't quite tell. And it just looks like angry eyebrows pointing down. And that just makes me want to buy this guitar and play like black metal on it. So yeah, there you go. Get your angry Les Paul. So now let's head on over stateside again and look at the offerings here. A couple of really interesting ones, so don't click off the video yet. We'll start with a beautiful 58 reissue. Kind of reminds me of the 59 Les Paul that I just sold not too long ago. I would still argue the top on that one was a little bit better, and since this is an R8, it would have a way bigger neck than that other one. But those dirty lemon finishes are quite nice. I thought the price wasn't too bad on that either, $42. This Les Paul Standard in Unburst, a particularly attractive top. That is a very uniform flame for not being like one of the plus models that some dealers sell, like Sweetwater. This one you might have just thought it was one of the Les Paul classics, but no, it's a Guitar Center exclusive Traditional Pro 5. People generally don't talk about these things too much, mainly because they have a really ugly looking truss rod cover. It's just the font's not right. But look at that really deep mineral streak wood grain line. Maybe it's just the satin finish that makes it look worse than it is, but there's some sort of a gap in the top that didn't get filled properly. But it appears these things are stock satin finishes. And this is one I probably would have missed had I not clicked on every single listing like I always do. So go through this, yeah, it's just some sort of a Les Paul. Most people would just be like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Kind of ugly frets. Has it been refretted? But no, that's not what this is at all. This is actually quite a rare guitar. It's one of the ES Les Paul standards. You know this one, you could check out the review and demo that has the F-holes. But this is the version where they didn't do the F-holes and they've become collectible. I was actually surprised to see Reverb categorize this one correctly. But as you can see here, those are collector's items, maybe even future collector's items going up in value. They have generally been selling in that $35,000 to $4,000 range. And I just don't think people are realizing that's what this is. There's not too much meat on the bone if you're trying to flip it. However, if you've been looking for one of these, it's a particularly nice example. I don't see any like huge major wear and tear to it. I mean, sure, you're going to have to live with the demo stamp on it, which only time will tell if those things are worth less or not, but it's got some scratches. The frets just don't particularly look very good on that example. Maybe they could round them up a little bit, but it is correct not to have fret nibs on this one because of the year it was produced and the factory it was produced in. Next up, another lefty that got a double pick guard. Like, fill me in, guys. Is there a famous left-handed guy that plays a double pick guard ES335? Is that why they keep doing it? Because otherwise, I just feel like a lefty would be like, finally, they list a beautiful 335 for a great price. I want it. Oh wait, they installed a pick guard on it where I don't need it. I know there were some factory examples back in the 50s and 60s that were done up like this, but I feel like some lefties should get the choice of not having it. Now I get it, they can remove it, but then you're gonna have holes. Poor lefties already have to convert righty guitars, they don't wanna have to have the holes. But that is a beautiful figured example too, and a nice natural finish. Here's another one you probably would have missed. It looks like just a regular Les Paul Classic, right? However, when you get to the back, a keen eye would notice, is that a comfort cut? The Les Paul Classic doesn't have a comfort cut. What is going on here? This is one of those old AMS Zounds exclusives. At least I think exclusive to them. Maybe other dealers had it too. It's a classic Lite. You guys remember the old classic customs Gibson did? Well, reissued in the 2010s era. Basically, it's just one of those. So this is going to have a thinner body. And this is one of those examples where having a couple of candid shots, to showcase that tiny body probably would have helped them sell this thing. If I remember correctly, these were about $1,900 brand new, so you're not getting too much of a discount. The Smokehouse Burst Studio, it's the same style that we saw in the European demo shop, but look at this price, $1,000. That's a great deal on one of these. They're brand new $1,600, so that's $600 off. I would have never guessed I would be saying $1,000 is a deal on a studio. It really was not that long ago when like $500 to $850 was the usual market, but nowadays it's like $900 to $1,500. We had a Custom Shop 335/64 reissue. I almost passed over this one, but it's actually candy apple blue. So it looks black in most of these photos, but there is a nice blue sheen to it. Looks like we got some damage at the top of the headstock, but this photo really helps show you how cool that candy apple blue finish should be. Another custom color, this one a 61 reissue. Pretty much just a Pelham blue color. Nothing too fancy, but not one you see every day. And another one for interesting finishes, 57 reissue, Les Paul this time, in all gold. So at the time of recording, all those were still available. Here's the ones that have sold. We'll start with the Big Mama Jammas. Here it is. I don't know what to feel about this one. Like, I'm sure if you live in Nashville and you've seen that Skyline, it probably means more to you, especially if you grew up there and have fond memories of it, or you live, work, and or worship in the area. However, for me, it looks like a desert sandcastle, like the pyramids of Egypt or something. But it's cool because it means somebody at Gibson is doing some sort of an artwork. I mean, maybe that's just an overlay or something. I actually kind of like this finish in general. Kind of reminds me of like one of the blueberry fade finishes that the HP Les Pauls had. And then they just put that over top of it. It's certainly interesting. Next up, one of these things, HD6X Pro. I'll be honest, I don't fully understand these guitars. I, like many other people, always just thought this was another one of them darn robot guitars. I don't want anything to do with it. And even though this one came out around the same time, it's not one of those darn robot guitars. It's actually meant to be like a super awesome recording instrument. It's got unique tuners that you can check out on my Gibson I review and demo. It has the cool carbon fiber inlays. This one has some sort of a weird discoloration right here. A couple of finish checks running up and down here. That's pretty common on metallic Gibson finishes. But look right here. This actually has a built-in MIDI system. And then I'm sure one day I'll review and demo these. But if I remember correctly, the bridge is actually specialized. So when you plug this into the recording software, you can say, okay, I want the E string to be a little bit louder than these other ones. You can like customize the volumes of each one, and obviously get your MIDI-like tones that'll do a whole bunch of stuff. Or so I've heard anyways. I've never sat down with one of these, but I'm sure one day we might. I'm honestly surprised Gibson was able to sell that for $3,500 as fast as they did, because other dealers have these listed for very similar prices in seemingly better condition, and this thing is sat for well over 4 months. So I think it's more along the lines of people get excited to see this in the demo shop, have a warranty if they buy it, and just be, new old stock weirdness. I mean, there is a novelty factor in there. But speaking of weird robot guitars, here we go. Dusk Tiger. We got one of these. I'm surprised. I get so many messages every week. People going, I bet you've never heard of this one. Oh, wow, I've never heard of this before. Oh, wow, I've never seen one of these. And honestly, it's probably just because nobody really paid too much attention to the Dusk Tiger. It was another one of those robot guitars after the Firebird X that didn't quite get as much publicity. And hey, say you're just getting into the guitar hobby. You probably haven't heard of it because it's from 2009. That's been quite some time now. I had one of these and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. But this one has been de-roboticized. So to make this thing even weirder, they put bass pickups in a guitar. Like, does that even work? I'm not sure. It must. Otherwise they wouldn't have done it. But they refinished it in kind of like a slightly darker color. They called it Evening Tiger Perimeter Burst. And even though I wasn't a big fan of this thing because of all the fancy electronics, I always thought having one of these and like gutting it and just doing very similar to what Gibson has done here would make it an awesome guitar. Because the fretboard's kind of cool. The design is interesting. It's got the unique wood look to it. You've got the claw inlays. So I'm sure somebody will be real happy with this. It was listed for $3,000, probably towards the top of the market of what that could get. Generally, you can find, chopped up versions of these things for like $18 to $25. We had a 335 dot in Cherry Burst. It's got that aged hardware, kind of like they did on my Avocado Burst 335. But you've got a nice dark border with a bright cherry in the center. Honestly, that's quite an attractive guitar. And now I'll leave you guys with this sleeper of a guitar. Man, if I would have saw this, I would have bought it. I've been wanting to review one of these tributes, but it has to be the exact right one. And let me tell you guys, this would have been the exact real one. I would have paid $1,100 for this. Look at the wood grain on the top. It's nice, maybe not the best we've ever seen, but it's crazy. It's out there. It's everywhere. So it had that going for it. But no, that is not the reason I wanted to share this thing. It is the back of the neck. Look at it. I've been telling you guys, they're out there. They are out there. Ridiculously flamed maple necks on budget level Gibsons. It's really hard to tell in these photos, but you can tell that is 100% uniformly flamed here. I don't pay attention to the demo shop anymore. I'm only there for the live releases of the mod collection, but this one, I wish I would have been there. All right, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed the recap this week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.